such an honor today to have this gentleman here on the Power Transformation podcast. I know him through a group I am a part of, but it's just his personality, his directness, his down to earthness that drew me in. And I said he has a story to tell. So I'd like to welcome you, Randy, to the Power Transformation podcast.
Well, thank you, Alicia. Glad to be here.
I'm so happy to have you. And yes, you all, this is Randy Wheeler. He will tell you more about himself. But before we get into the heart and the crux of what we're here to actually talk about, I always like to start off with a fun, lighthearted icebreaker question for you. And so, Randy, I do this so that we can get to know you more as a person outside of what you do and to just show some humanness about everybody, all of our guests. So, Randy, this is my question for you. Randy, if you could go back in time to your upbringing, your childhood, whether it's a teenager or whatnot, what is one of the most favorite things that you love to do with your friends?
Oh, goodness. What I love to do with my friends. Just be outside and play. Be
Yeah.
outside and play, whether it's riding bikes, shooting baskets, playing wiffle ball. Actually, no, I stunk at that game, but just being a boy and playing out, going out in the woods,
Mhm.
playing in the woods, and yeah, I think that's when I'm thinking of my childhood. That's just going out. I like being outside and
Uh-huh.
doing boy things.
I understand that. And I think that a lot of kids nowadays are losing that. Not to say there aren't pockets of that, but kids rarely play outside anymore. It's almost like they have
Mhm.
to be forced to. But I remember loving to go outside, having a great time, hanging out with my friends. I was a tomboy all the way until I was about 12. I got girly when I was about 12. But growing up, I love playing outside myself. So I totally get it. And it's that nice innocence. But hearing you, Randy, say that makes me think about the fact how you liked being outside, outdoors activity, and that led to you having a love or some type of affinity for even sports, I would say. But before we get into that aspect of your life of what you did, I want to ask you this $1 million question, and that question is, who is Randy Wheeler?
Who is Randy Wheeler? Well, I don't usually lead with this, but I'm gonna lead with this because when I think who I am a child of the God of the universe, and
Mm,
that's who I am. But what I do is different, meaning I do leadership training, I do coaching. I'm a father of three boys, ages 20, 18, and 15, and they keep us busy, and right now they keep us poor because two are in college. Um, yeah, so there's that. But yeah, so and why I do what I do. I help develop leaders. If I help people lead better at work, it helps them lead better at home, transforms homes, transforms communities. And if I help the next generation see that they're leaders, and not just for tomorrow, but today, it'll continue to transform schools and communities. So, I mean, that's the why. But I mean, who I am at my core is not defined by what I do. I mean, it may sound a little
exactly.
weird to some people, but
Mhm.
it's something I got to remind myself with because
Yeah.
oftentimes I get caught up in comparing myself to others, and then I got to say, hold on, that's not who I am. I just got to be faithful. I was thinking random tangent for you just because I
Mhm.
keep talking about it because I just heard it the other day listening to a podcast. Faithful versus willful.
Mm.
And it really hit me. So I think about with building a business and growing the business. Their willful is like I feel it's like the illustration of like trying to building anything is pushing a boulder uphill.
Mhm.
But if I'm willful, I'm pushing the boulder up the hill, but I don't know there's this little pebble there that's blocking me and it's just hard. It's hard. It's hard. But if I'm faithful, I'm pushing when I need to push and just keep going where I'm led and just follow the path. And they're both stressful, but faithful is more peaceful, while willful is more, I'm anxious. I'm like trying so hard and feeling like I get nowhere, but faithful feels like not as much effort, but I feel like I'm getting somewhere. Random
Yeah.
thought. Don't know why I shared it, and it didn't
It's
quite
okay.
tie to
No,
the.
no, no. It's fine because I think it falls in alignment with, me asking about who you are and the way that you led. I love that. It's saying that you are a child of the God of the universe because I think you're right. You actually said a key part is that sometimes people will say what they do, but it's not who they are. And you being a child of God and living with intentionality and being faithful to that which you're called to do, I think means a world of difference. And who you are also, as you said, you are a father and it was so funny when you said that they keep you poor, you and your wife poor. That's hilarious. But in terms of that being a child of God as the crux and the core of who you are, that shows up in all that you do. And a part of your journey, Randy, has been this leadership journey. So if we could just go back briefly in thinking about this transformation of who you are now, think about to the time once more when you were growing up. In what ways, as a child, whether it was a boy or even a teenager, or even in those, early 20s or late teens, in what ways did leadership show up in your life? Were you always at the core a leader, or is that something you grew over time?
I think it's something ultimately something that was called out of me on one level, but
Mm.
there's always been a bossy side of me. I think my parents would agree with that. There's probably always been a little bit of a side of me. Obviously, when you're younger, you don't really realize it as much well, some people never realize it, but realize there's this side that likes to be in control. Um, but I was always willing, as a young person, I was willing to kind of go my own path. I
Hmm.
didn't have to follow the crowd. I wouldn't say that I was a person that, some people people just naturally follow them. I don't know. If I was that, I didn't know I was that.
Hmm.
Uh, but I was willing to go the ways that others wouldn't go and just be like, hey, this doesn't, I'm gonna do my thing. You do your thing, I'll do my thing. Not in a mean way, but just in a principled way. But when I
Hmm.
was in one of my first roles in my early 20s, my boss was sitting across from me and just calling out leadership ability in me. He said he
Hmm.
saw that my leadership ability, and that was kind of the first time he called that out. He gave me, and it's the one. This isn't the actual copy. It's on the bookshelf behind me, but he gave me I think one of my first John Maxwell books. 21
Yes.
qualities of a leader, and he wrote a note in it. I still have it. It's up there. It's well used because I
Hmm.
use it when I do some training with young people or even adults. But he was the first one that really kind of called it out of me.
Hmm.
Um, but then I look back and you know I wanted to do strength and conditioning, and I got an opportunity to do some stuff in college and work with some teams. So I guess there were some abilities there that
Hmm.
wasn't. I was comfortable being in charge. I didn't have to be in charge, but I was
Yeah.
comfortable being in charge. I mean, so I've never really thought about it. So you're getting me
Hmm.
talking out loud on this.
That's fine. And so it's really interesting that your supervisor at the time gave you that book. And I'm going to bring it up later on, but what led you into the sports performance world? Because that's what you did at first prior to you doing this. Were you athletic growing up? And how did being in sports performance teach you how to be an even more effective leader?
So I when I was seventh going in eighth grade, I had the opportunity to work out in the summer because I was a wrestler at the time. I loved wrestling, but I didn't love it enough to quit eating in high school, so I stopped in high school. They wanted me to keep going, but that was back in the day before they had like restrictions and kept, I mean, it was crazy.
Mm,
So I learned about the weight room and I liked it. I have an older brother, 3.5 years older, and his example was definitely an influence on me. Nothing he said, just his example of his hard work and his commitment to getting better as an athlete. And then fast forward, I liked what I was doing. I got an opportunity, like I mentioned, in college to help out with a couple teams. And fast forward a little more, once I was started to be able to be a full-time strength coach, after a couple of years, I was kind of like, why am I doing this?
mm,
And the why became I'm helping them develop the discipline and responsibility to become a better leader or to accomplish a goal and become a better leader at whatever they do. And that was kind of the why behind what I did. And I'd have to continue to reflect on it, I had the opportunity to work with multiple different leaders, as in different coaches, with very different approaches.
mhm,
That some of them would put their athletes on a field, whether they worked hard with me or not. I had to be a master psychologist, was what one of my athletic directors said. He was like, "Hey, you got the hardest job in the building." I'm like, "Why?" Because you have to get everybody to do what they don't want to do. I'm like,
hmm.
good point. Now I'm depressed. I'm gonna go back to work. But I looking back, I'd have a room full of 100 teenage boys that I had to keep focused on point on in control, so to speak, just
Mhm,
purposefully, practically doing what they needed to do to get better. And it didn't come hard for me. So on some levels, I learned how to be a manager, systems and processes. But I
mm,
feel over the past probably towards the end of that phase of my career and even as I've been doing what I've been doing now, am learning more how to be a better leader because leading is more inspiring. And I did that as a strength coach, but sometimes I wonder, did I manage more than I led? Did I kind
mhm,
of motivate out of fear versus motivating out of a vision? And I probably did a little bit of both.
mhm.
We don't know what we don't know, and in the beginning we do it wrong, and eventually maybe we do it better. You'd
Yeah.
have to ask some of my former athletes if I was a good leader or not.
Exactly. And I think it's fascinating that you bring up this whole concept of management because for those of us who are leading, whether it's in our business, careers, our home life, or all of the above, there are some leaders who may not be managing things as well as they ought to. So it's almost as if the two don't necessarily have to go hand in hand, but I can see how management and effective management can enhance leadership. And it begs me the question of, in thinking about all you did in your history of that sports performance well, in what ways did that shape and grow you, not just as a leader, but as a father, a husband, and in other roles in your life? How did those two go hand in hand?
The thing about working with athletes,
Hmm.
uh, you got a lot of egos. You got a lot of egos on the coach's side, you got a lot of egos on the player side, and then you got me and my ego.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
um dealing and learning how to work with the different personalities. If I knew then what I know now, I would have been even better.
Mm,
Um, but sometimes there are opportunities that came about that I learned a lot. I'm
mhm,
driving in the car one day with my family, and I have three wonderful sons, thanks to my wife and the
mhm,
amazing mother she is.
mm.
But this we're driving along, and I got boys, so they're doing their thing. I kind of yell back at them from the front of the seat, from the driver's seat. We're on a vacation, and my middle one, who's the one with quite a strong will, like his father. he snaps back and he goes, "Why are you treating us like your athletes? You don't have to yell at us like you're athletes." I'm like,
Oh,
ooh,
wow.
ouch. And this is the same son that saw me because they're, like I said, they're strong personalities, different personalities. We were doing workout and it was conditioning workout, and one super talented athlete just he never worked hard, and it just boiled me. And I just got so ticked, and I turn
Mm.
around. We're at the goal line on one end of the football field. I turn around, I have my keys on a lanyard, and I just launch him probably down to the 50-yard line.
Ooh,
My
wow.
son's there, and he was like probably 4 at the time, and it scared him so much. He like ran to the other goal
Oh
end zone
no.
to a bleacher there, was just kind of scared. And looking back at that, I mean, was it right, wrong, indifferent what I did? I don't know. Sometimes
Mhm.
it's what the moment requires, especially with boys. Uh, but I wasn't modeling good leadership. That's not
Mhm.
really good leadership with people. I mean, that I can let somebody get under my skin that much that I boil over and react that way. So all those experiences with people, the more we interact with people, the more we learn about
Mhm.
ourselves, the more I learn about myself. And I could
Yeah.
go over story after story after story of how I messed up and how I learned from that mess up through interacting with people. And if I learn from the mistakes, I can grow and become a better leader. But if I
Hmm.
repeat the mistake, then, you know, I'm not growing and I'm
Exactly.
going. We're always going forward or backwards. So if I'm not learning, I'm probably going backwards and not going forward.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And that's a very good observation, is the fact that you learn from that. And Randy, at least you were the type of leader who could admit or recognize when you were wrong or when you needed to improve somewhere. Because sometimes leaders allow ego, just as some of the athletes do, they allow ego to get into the way of what they really need to do to own up to the mistakes that they make as leaders. And I think that is what makes you more effective. But even more, Randy, what makes your journey so impressive to me is that you led even in the ability of knowing when it was time for you to make a shift or a pivot. So here you are in this career as a sports coach and per a a sports performance coach, excuse me, and you're working with all of these athletes, coaches, but then there was something inside of you stirring up, Randy, where you knew that, okay, yes, I've done well here. I'm great at what I do, but there's something more. Take us to when you started to be led by God to say, hey, it's time for me to enhance my leadership and take it to the next level. And it's ironic that your first supervisor gave you a book written by John Maxwell. So tell us about that shift and pivot, but also tell us why and how the whole idea or person of John Maxwell would be key in your future leadership journey.
So it's not really a pivot in that it was a one moment thing. It was
Okay.
I've noticed and that I go through these stages at certain points in my life, usually tied to a number of my age, and I
Mm,
get restless. And I was getting restless. I was like, okay, I can't see myself doing this. This isn't a retirement thing. I'm not going to retire from this. Didn't know what it was. I went back to school, got a master's in organizational leadership.
mhm.
Wife's like, what are you going to do with that? I'm like, I'll let you know. I didn't quite figure it out. Uh, and then fast forward, I saw a friend of mine and I was like, hey, what are you doing now? And I thought they were doing something else. She's like, oh, I'm part of the John Maxwell team. I'm like, what's that? So learn
Mhm.
about that. I find out about that, take a day to think about it, and come back home. And my wife's like, what are you thinking? And I tell her, and she's like, hey, if you don't have a clear no, then go for it. And when your spouse says go for it and you got to invest money into it, you go for it before she changes her mind.
Exactly.
But part of why joining that team, uh part of it was just logical. I mean, is I had co-owned a business that was a franchise while I was a strength coach, and I was like, is this a franchise? I don't want to do that thing. And just looking at the model and all that, and it made sense. But there's also a values alignment.
Mhm.
Apart from even if you took out the faith element of John, so there's a lot that could get really nerdy, and I won't get really nerdy on this, but
It's okay if you get nerdy. It's okay.
there's lots of,
I'm a nerd. It's okay.
well, I on my, I don't know my that I turned the paper I did my master's into a book, the Leadership Theory 101. Like, that's the nerdy, simple nerdy. But there's transformational, transactional leadership. Transactional is basically being bossy. Transformational is casting the vision, painting a picture, saying, "Come with me."
Yeah.
John lives that out, and he takes that type of leadership and he puts the cookies on the bottom of the shelf and says, "Here's how you be a transformational leader."
Mm.
And it's in alignment. His values are in alignment. The community of support, it gave me I call it a practical MBA and how to build a business around developing leaders, because in that restlessness, kind of like when I shared my why a little bit ago, I was like, I'm building leaders. I know I'm making an impact where I am in this community, in this school, with these people. I knew I was. And I still live in this community, so I see some of those
Mm.
students, whether from the first place or the last place. But I'm like, if I can help the leaders be better leaders, then it will multiply my impact. And and who knows what leader may be listening to this right now, and maybe something we say helps them be a better leader and
Hmm.
extends the reach. So that was the why of why the change. But life is, I'm stubborn, and life is interesting, and let's just say I had a plan and the plan got sped up
That's
into me
right.
going into it full time, and it's been the most exciting, terrifying thing I've ever done. And I was
Oh,
just having lunch with my brother this weekend, and I was like, "Yeah, it's been almost 10 years now." And he's just like, "Wow." He's like, "I don't know how you do that," because he's a teacher in a school, great teacher, teaches U.S. history, and I'm like, but for me, I'm like, I couldn't stay in the box. I just
yeah.
couldn't. I just knew there was more. There's more. It drives my wife nuts because I'm always thinking there's more. There's more for me. I could do more. There's just more. I don't know how to explain it
Hmm.
to somebody that doesn't understand. It's just, this isn't enough. I mean, I I think you and I talked about it before, the content versus satisfaction. Like, I'm
Yes, that's a
content.
great pivot. Take us there, because I was just about to ask you that, but I was going to also say, you know, that a lot of people can have worries, they can have fears about starting a business. They may talk themselves out of it. And I tell people it is okay. Everybody's journey is different. It's okay if, as you're starting a business, if you're able to quit your full time job, if you are in a place where you can, great. If you're in a place where you can't, work both until you can get it. If you got to go back to work and still run your business, it's okay. We all still have to live. But my question to you is, we did talk about this um complacency versus satisfaction. You brought up a huge and a pivotal aha moment even for me. So my question to you, Randy, is how would you distinguish, or what's the difference between complacency versus satisfaction? And as a man who coaches, develops other leaders, how would you lead someone who may have that worry or that fear of knowing when it's time to change or to shift or to get outside of the box?
Okay, that was a lot.
Yeah. Cause,
So
cause Randy, I'm a nerd, so answer it any kind of way. It's no right or wrong. Just take
yeah,
it
yeah.
the way that
So
you want to.
complacency versus satisfaction. I'm gonna give you three words: complacency, contentment, and satisfaction.
Okay.
Uh, Complacency is I'm comfortable, and this is easy, and let's just keep coasting. My friend and mentor of mine just wrote a book all under this topic of complacency called From Drift to Drive.
Mm,
Good book. So complacency is like I just want it's easy here. I'm gonna stay here. Um, I think of a client I worked with in a large organization. It was a group of people, and it was a really large organization, a small group in that large organization, and it's like they're like, "Oh, I got great benefits, I got great insurance," and but they don't seem happy. That's
um,
complacency to
yeah.
me. But there's also like, what do you value? And I don't want to judge that person. Like that may be just that's what they want, and that works for them. Then satisfaction is there's always more. There's more for me. There's never being satisfied is like the opposite of that complacency that I'm never satisfied that there's got to be more. There's more potential. I have more. There's there's more impact to make. There's more potential. If money's your driver, then there's always another dollar because Norman Rockefeller said, well, how much is enough money? He's the richest man in the world, and he said $1 more. Money's
Mm,
not my driver, but that's that. The third one is the one that if we're there at our core, we're
mm,
going to be in a good spot, which is contentment.
mhm,
Contentment says things are the way they're supposed to be. I'm good,
mhm.
but I'm looking for more. I don't want to stay where I am. I want to go get more, but I'm content that it's going to happen in time.
Yeah.
So it's like peace while moving is the best way I could describe it.
Mm,
Peace while moving. So to the leader, um, I think for the leader who's struggling with that, strive to find that contentment spot,
mhm,
um, but continue to move forward. Because
mhm.
if we're not moving forward, we're always going somewhere. We're either going forward or we're going backwards. That's how life works.
Yeah.
There's probably some smart person that has some law, what energy in motion. Energy is always in motion or something like that. I'm not a good physics guy, I didn't take the class, but so for that leader, celebrate where you're at. Um, I'm horrible at that. I can say that, but I'm horrible at that. I'm like, okay, we got it. Let's go on. What's the next thing?
Yeah.
Celebrate where you're at and keep moving forward. Be content while moving versus because of the moment, especially in the world we live in, if we're complacent, we're going to get passed by.
Yeah.
And at some level, we're just going to be bored.
Mm,
If you're a leader, you like to solve problems, you like change, and like
mhm.
you'll get bored and you'll probably get yourself in trouble because you'll find your adventure somewhere and it probably won't be in a
Yeah.
healthy place.
Exactly. And even that breakdown of contentment, I think is so great, especially when viewing it from, and everybody listening or watching this isn't necessarily Christian, but I know in thinking about servant leadership, being a Christian leader, the Apostle Paul talks about in all things I have learned to be content. And sometimes people have misinterpreted contentment, since that is encouraged for those of us who are followers of Christ. Sometimes people misinterpret contentment as complacency, and that's not what it is. In my perspective, that's not what it's saying. It's not saying to not continue achieving, but with where you are and what you have, learned to be content while still striving for more if that's what you desire for your life. And so I really appreciate this, because it seems that in our society, people now are always looking for more, more, more. And so when it comes to that more factor, Randy, how have you learned in your life as a leader? How have you learned to keep that more into perspective while not having it shift over into greed?
Simplicity.
Yeah.
That's the first thing that comes to mind is
Mm,
simplicity. Um,
mm,
on a material level, um, the more I have, the more I have to take care of, and the more it's
mhm,
gonna cost, the more stress I have. If it's on a material level, if I keep it simple, it's easier to manage.
mhm,
On on to prevent that greed from kicking in, set a standard. Set a standard that, okay, this is my standard. I'm content with this. At X amount of dollars, that's what I need to live off of for, and
mhm.
I mean, first world opportunity.
Of
We
course, yeah.
can say that,
I
because
understand.
anybody that's in the first world, even at the poverty level, is still richer than 95% of the world.
That's a fact.
I mean, I feel like I shouldn't say anything else when you put it into a
Yeah, it's
global
a fact though.
perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. Mm,
But simplicity, uh, setting a standard, and then being rooted in a purpose bigger than ourselves.
mm,
Um, w- whether a person of faith or not, Daniel Pink in his book Drive talks about the three keys, the three factors to motivation that he found in purpose, autonomy, and mastery.
mm,
Purpose, autonomy, and mastery. Because money only satisfies to a certain extent.
mhm,
So to be content, have a purpose, have when you feel like you have the freedom to choose and move and go, that you don't feel trapped. And mastery to me is another way of just saying have a challenge. There's something that's challenging you and pushing you forward to continue to grow and develop.
mhm,
So if we have a purpose bigger than, well, I just got to get up, to pay the bills, to feed my family, to not kick the dog, to you know,
yeah.
if it's got to be bigger, it's got to be bigger. Even like, hey, I go to work because I can help fund my children's education and that they can have a better life than me. That's just me speaking
Yes, I
why I
understand.
do what I do, but
Yeah.
that's a bigger purpose, more
Mm,
than just, well, I just do it because I got a bunch of bills I gotta pay, and then when there's a bigger purpose, we have more contentment.
mm,
Um, Obviously, I'm biased and I have an opinion of how we get that ultimate purpose, but
mm,
even apart from faith, you can have a bigger purpose. It's
mhm.
just to me a little easier with it.
Yeah. And with those that you're leading, let's talk a bit about this as our time starts to come to a close. There's so many coaches out there. I see you, based on your years of experience, just like me, we've coached a long time, and I almost feel like a different word needs to be placed there, because you do so much more than coaching. And it's not to minimize it, but you have such extensive experience. And so, thinking specifically, Randy, about the people that you work with, who is your ideal client and what do you help them achieve?
Well, I work with a lot of business owners, business leaders, and organizations. Uh, when there's multiple ways I help them. When I'm working one-on-one, I'm helping them. The best way to describe it is I'm helping them get clarity. Uh, for a business owner, for a business leader, whether that's a high level leader in the top level of an organization in the C-suite or somebody that's more in the middle, you got the tornado of work is happening and you need a little clarity, and I act as that thinking partner to help provide that clarity or to help the team members learn what it means to be a leader and think into how to apply principles like John's principles as
Hmm.
a leader. And then also every organization, you go to any organization or any group of people, almost probably all of them will say, we got communication problems.
Mm.
So I can help with that by helping them understand their communication style and their work performance style so they can have common language around that, so they can communicate more effectively, so they can work more productively. And then the third one that I help with different organizations is helping those teams to just talk through the issues. There's a game over my shoulder called the leadership game. I'll just
Mm.
provide an opportunity for them in a safe, positive environment to sort through, just play that game and sort through questions to help them deal with the elephant in the room or just build their team and see opportunities to grow. So I just help organizations, help individual leaders get clarity and help organizations improve their communication and build their teams. So,
Mm.
but the ideal client, it basically is, I don't have an ideal one.
Yeah.
Leadership crosses across multiple sectors, whether it's
Mhm.
education. I've worked with educators. I've worked with construction industry, hospitals, and large companies and all different small business owners, all different
Mm.
types of people.
Now, this communication factor is really important. What have you seen is one of the biggest factors in the lack of communication? When so
The no
for
no no
yeah, okay. Get what I'm
it's the
asking.
same it's the same problem I have in my own home,
Oh, oh,
which is not listening well and not
okay.
asking good questions.
Okay. Yeah.
It's uh if if we if we listen more than we talk, we're gonna communicate more effectively. Um,
Hmm.
good. John wrote a whole book. John Maxwell wrote a whole book called "Good Leaders Ask Great Questions"
Hmm.
because questions help us get clarity. If we got to be the smartest person in the room,
Mm.
or if we are the smartest person in the room, we might be in the wrong room
That's right.
because we need people. Even if you're at the top, we a good leader says, I want people that think different than me, and they'll be the leader will be the last to speak because they'll listen to what's being said. They'll be processing and trying to synthesize everything and asking questions because they don't know what they don't know.
Hmm.
But the immature leader will say, I know it all. Here's what we're going to do. It's my way or the highway. And then surround themselves with yes people. And that's not going to be healthy. So
Hmm.
for communication, listening and asking questions. And it's something I'm growing still myself, both personally and professionally, because it takes time and it's messy.
Hmm.
It's a lot easier to just go fast and say, here's what we're doing and be directive, but it's not. But then we tend to have to clean up messes afterwards.
Yes, exactly. And I think that the communication piece, even within companies or industries or anywhere that you work, that is a key thing about is just that lack of listening. But also we communicate regularly when we're networking with other people.
Mhm.
So when you think about all of the people that you've encountered, Was the networking aspect, even to get in those rooms so a person could trust you, know more who you were, did that networking aspect come easily for you? And how has networking developed your leadership skills even more?
Oh my goodness, I was horrible at networking. I don't know if I'm necessarily good at it
Wow.
now, but I'd say I was horrible because I lived in a world where I didn't feel I needed to develop that network.
Okay.
Um, but I look back and I was developing it unknowingly because in my former world as a sports performance coach, I would go to different universities and I would go and spend the day or half a day with the strength coaches. I went to a professional strength coach
Mhm.
here where I live and spent the day with them. I was networking through learning. And then when I get into the professional world of developing a business, I just spend time asking questions. I don't want to talk about me because, well, one is I know my life. And
Mhm.
like y- chances are you probably if you really care, you're going to ask me questions.
Mhm.
But generally, you love to talk about yourself. And you know what? I like learning about you. I like learning about other people and hearing about their lives because there's something I'm going to learn from them. So I'd say from how's networking helped me as a leader, I think it's helped me just learn how to value other people, learn how to be more interested in other people, think of other people. And even when I'm networking, trying to figure out, okay, is there a way or what way could I add value to them? Whether it's
Mhm.
making a connection, whether it's serving them in some way or something. I'm not always good at it, but it's I try to be conscious of, hey, I'm here to help you, not to
Yeah.
get from you. And if the only help is we have a great conversation, we're two people, we're like, you're cool, I'm cool. It goes nowhere from that. But it's two great people that get to know each other. And when time's supposed to be right, maybe that person will I'll be able to help that person or they'll be able to help me. But in the meantime, just value the other people and it's about giving more than getting.
Agreed. Agreed totally. Randy, I do have one or two more questions to ask you, but if a
Yeah.
person wants to get in contact with you, either a person, company, and they want to inquire more about you and how you could even help them individually or as a team, how can they connect with you?
Sorry.
Sure. That's fine.
Choking on my spit there.
That's fine. Go
Oh
ahead.
goodness. Uh my website is leadwell.biz. You can also email me directly, Randy at wheelercoachingsystems.com, or even connect with me on LinkedIn if you use that social media platform. But those are three easy ways to kind of connect.
Thank you so much. And it just begs the question with you as a leadership coach, a transformational leadership coach at that, how, Randy, have you transformed over the years in your leadership style from leading others?
I think lately one of the things I'm growing in is um, learning how to get out of the way to help
Mm,
to create room for others to grow and be more thoughtful and mindful about how I can help others.
mm,
And also I'm with some stuff I do within Maxwell Leadership with our youth program. I I have a great leader that I'm led by and they trust me.
mm,
And sometimes it's like there's a part of me that doesn't want to own and wants to, well, make a decision and then make sure it's a good decision. And
mm.
learning how to
Interesting.
just, for lack of a better term, man up and just make the
Mm,
decision and whatever result comes. I may fail and I'm going to have to learn from it and go through the pain of dealing with a failure that I don't want to deal with. But if I don't deal with failure, success won't come.
mm.
So learning how to accept the responsibility of decisions and make decisions instead of analyzing and and trying to not make one unconsciously because I'm worried about the wrong decision, and two, getting out of the way and intentionally being mindful about putting others in positions that they can grow and they can lead, and letting go of control. I think every leader has to be in that process constantly.
And one last question that I have for you in thinking about this journey, what's the greatest transformation that you've seen in your life, Randy, since you've made this move to try to help other business owners? And this transformation could come in the form of your personal life or even in your business. What's that transformation, and how will you continue elevating as the years go on?
I, I think it goes back to what I was sharing about a little bit earlier. Um, Being faithful
Mm,
and not willful. I got to continue to move forward, but am I trying to knock on doors and see if they're open, or am I trying to beat down doors? And
ooh,
and and I, you know, in the world I was in, I knew what I could expect. Kind of, people are people, people always people, you know. But when you go off and you start a business and jump into the unknown, and you're like, I mean, at the time, I mean, my kids are 20, 18, and so at the time the kids were maybe, I don't know, 12. When it was full time, they were 12, 10, and I can't do the math. We'll call it 6, something like that. And my wife is not, she's not necessarily working outside the home in
mm,
a substantial way, and it's scary. I, I, I I feel like for myself, and if anybody watching this, if this is not your thing, just you can ignore me. That's cool. But for me, leaning into the fact that God is faithful and walking with him and going where he leads me, it's a daily journey. And as long as I'm walking with him, everything works out all right. When I start trying to be willful, I get more stressed, I get more anxious, I get more grumpy. I'm horrible to live with. And and it doesn't go, I don't have that peace. But if I'm
mhm,
walking faithfully, meaning just listening and walking with God and doing the things you need to do. It's not, don't get me wrong, it's not like all crazy spiritual.
yeah.
It's a both and. It's like you go on a walk with your dad on the beach when you're a little kid, you're holding his hand, but you're still walking. But he's
Mm,
kind of guiding you because he knows he's going to keep you out of the deep water where you're going to get drowned, where you're going to drown on the ocean. But he's got you. He's holding your hand tight. And I feel like ever since building a business, it's a journey of growing and expanding my my faith, because if I want to grow, I don't know what more there is, but there's more.
that's right.
And and if I stay walking with him, um, the more will be the right kind of more, because there could be more, but it may not be the right kind of more.
Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Power Transformation Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow or subscribe, leave a 5-star rating, and write a review. It helps us inspire even more listeners. And don't keep it to yourself. Share it with someone who could use a little power in their transformation. Until next time, keep bouncing back, keep rising, and be good to yourself and to others.